Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. On this channel, we talk about Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. And today, I have a very special guest that I'm so honored to have on, my own mother. Thank you. Today, we're going to talk about your health journey, how your life has been with Hashimoto's, things you have gone through, trial and errors. I mean, you've been in the game longer than I have. Where did it all start out for you?
It actually started when I was very, very young. I've always
Mm.
had health issues, a lot of problems with my lungs, an impaired immune system. I've had hypermobility all my life, which has caused a lot of problems and clumsiness. And it can cause you to trip or drop things. So I've had to balance all my life what to do and what not to do. Only I haven't had a good way of doing it because I've done more than my body accepts,
Yeah.
which will cause me to overexert myself and then crash, which is a really negative cycle of doing things. I've only just now found a way to do things a bit better.
Yeah. Do you think it could be due to personality character that you're sort of an overachiever? You want to push a little further than everyone else?
It could be. It's not even sort of an overachiever. I want things to be perfect and they never get
Mm.
perfect. But it's also one of the things that have kept me going. I am curious. I like to find information to improve myself and help others improve. So that's a part of my reason for living. Now there is no limit to what you can do. And I guess when you have children, they will have even more possibilities than you ever had.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
because you want everything to move forward. Because what we're seeing right now in the world is unfortunately the opposite, especially when it comes to health. Things is turning worse than it ever has. When it gets too bad, it has to take a shift.
Yeah. So do you want to hear my list of autoimmune diseases?
Yeah. But what do you think it started out with?
I think it started out with my mother having deficiencies. When you're in the stomach of the mother, she gives you everything that she can give you. But if she has deficiencies, so will you.
Yeah.
So I started out with deficiencies because my mother grew up in an area of Sweden which is known for deficiencies and Hashimoto's. And the soil over there is very fine dust. It's been emptied of the nutrients that we actually need to grow.
Yeah, the essential nutrients. Yeah.
Yeah, the essential nutrients. I think that is what caused me to start my life with an impaired immune system. And this is not on my mother at all because they didn't know. They've always made their own food. They've always bought things produced in the vicinity. They had their own milk and meat and they knew exactly what was in the meat. But when you start out with a plant life that doesn't have the nutrients, and the cattle eats that, and then you eat the cattle, it will be deficient. So my mother was born from a mother with deficiencies. And then I was born from her. So I got sick and more sick than anybody else.
From what age?
From ever, from baby. My mother had written everything down in a book and she gave me that later on in life. Every time to a doctor, every medicine I ever got, vaccination, earache. I had a lot of issues with my throat and my tonsils, with my lungs and my respiratory system, my stomach. So I've been to a doctor a lot.
Yeah.
And I've also been clumsy. So I have been x-rayed over and over again. And at that time, the x-rays weren't as kind as they are right now. When I was 10 years old, they said she shouldn't have any more x-rays her entire life. Do you think that happened? No, it didn't.
No.
So for the longest time, I also said, I don't want you to x-ray my teeth. If you think it's okay, I would rather not x-ray. A lot
Oh
of
my
people-
God.
Yeah. So the impaired immune system has been forever.
Other things as well.
Yeah, Danlos syndrome, EDS. And I also have the vascular kind. So my blood transporting
Oh, the cardiovascular.
vascular. The vascular system has been, it breaks. I get bruises very easily. It just says pop. and I have a bruise on my finger. I've had one on my arm now for a while. It doesn't hurt at all. It's just the arteries that break. That's something that has caused for me to have anemia at times because I bleed a lot. And from forever, I've had MCAS.
Explain what MCAS is.
Well, it has a lot of different
Components.
right? But generally speaking, it's your mast cells that are overactive. And when you eat something wrong, or if you do something wrong, or when you are too overstimulated, you get this release of histamines in your body. It causes a lot of things. It causes me to become really pale, have no energy, can't get up out of bed, I get dizzy, I get POTS. I could faint from it. And I had fainted a lot, as you know.
Yeah.
And this release of histamines in my body also causes different things like rashes, difficulty breathing. It just depends on what it is that has released it. If I've eaten something, it can be all over my body. If I have brushed up against something, it could be only my arm. And then it spreads to my entire being, and I have to lay down for 12 hours or so.
And on top of that, you're very sensitive to mold.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, if we had left something in our room, like you eat an apple and then you just leave it and you could mold. Yeah, it molded and you just knew walking into the room.
Yeah. In the beginning, when you were really young, I could just snip it out and I could find it and I could remove it. But later on, I was so very allergic to mold that I couldn't be in a room with mold. And that happened after I was working at a school and I told them that there was mold and they said, no, 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 we've had it all checked out. And I told them, you have mold downstairs in that wall.
You knew.
And they came over there and they drilled holes and, oh yeah, we have mold here. And we were to continue being teachers at the top of the school. And I had an anaphylactic shock because there was so much mold in there. We were so far out in the woods that it took 25 minutes to go into the nearest medical facility. And I stopped breathing on the way. My colleague who helped me go, she got scared to death. She said, I will never do this again because she thought I died in the car. And then we didn't meet an ambulance. So she had to go the entire way into the medical place there. And there they put me in an ambulance and sent me on.
My God.
And then I had epinephrine and all those things to widen. They just had to keep feeding me these things because I kept crashing. So it's a real thing. If you're allergic to something, it's not something that you can just wish you didn't have.
No. So many times people try to gaslight you into thinking it's no big deal, but it can get very serious.
I can actually smell it on people. I know they live in a house with mold because it's,
You're like the dogs, they can sniff drugs. But that's really good. If someone is living in mold, they can develop allergies or autoimmune issues. And you mentioned it started out with a dysfunctional immune system, and that's in turn turned into different issues, allergies, diseases. And it's so common for someone with an autoimmune disease that if the immune root is not addressed, the root cause to your immune system overreacting, then it will lead to development of other autoimmune diseases in time, like it has for you, because it didn't start out this way. It started out with the immune system and maybe some nutrient deficiencies, gut imbalances, and stress. But then in time, it develops, right? Because you don't solve the problem. You just get medications to cover it.
And the doctors don't even know what these things are. They don't have any idea what's wrong with you. And when they take 100 different blood tests, they say, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. Well, there's something wrong with me. And then they say, okay, but it must be an hormonal imbalance or something. It's because you're a woman and you have the menstrual cycle and all that. It's because
They are the worst gaslighters ever. I also went to a doctor. He said the same thing. No, you're doing everything right. You talk about your lifestyle, you sleep, you're working out. So everything is fine. Bro, I know everything is not fine. I live with myself every single day. And it's so funny because a big reason to why I wanted to put you on this podcast. And this is the episodes I've been looking most forward to. Yeah. Because talking to people who go through these things and find their own solutions and dares to think for themselves, they are more of experts than the so-called experts. Yeah. Because they have lived it. They know what works, what doesn't work. And the conventional, you've been in it all your life. Yeah. So you know this is not working. My body is breaking down and you feel it. Yeah. And they still try to tell you, no, nothing is wrong. You should go to this doctor or that doctor. And you go doctor shopping from doctor to doctor and no one talks to each other and no one has a clue when it comes to chronic conditions. No. Fine. When it comes to bone fractures, when it comes to going in an ambulance.
They can remove your gallbladder, but they have no idea what the chronic conditions are. They have no idea how to treat them.
They don't know the route to autoimmunity.
No, they give you medicine for the symptoms. And then you get medicine for the next symptom. And then you get a medicine for the next symptom. And the next symptom, you have like a bunch of medicines. And some of those medicines don't go together. So they cancel each other out. Which also happened until I got a specialist to help me remove medicines and put the kinds I needed together. But when I started out, we didn't have mobile phones. When I went out to play, I could not be reached until I came home.
Yes.
And that is the grand scope of things. Then, when I started researching, only place that I could find information was in a university library or another library. Because there were no other places to find things. And even there weren't any information about these things. But from the year 2000 about, there's internet. And with internet, you can find a lot of things all over the world. And you stumble over things that you actually didn't know you needed, but you need them. So I've been researching and trial and error all the while.
Exactly. But I just want someone listening that maybe relates to your story and has gone through the same things, and also other people around these people. Because when someone gets an autoimmune disease, it affects the whole family. It doesn't just affect that one person. Everyone is affected because it affects your whole life. But as a kid, did you understand you had a lot of issues? Or was it something you didn't think so much about? Was it your mother who kept the journal and really kept track?
No, I'm not like that. I forget very quickly. I live in the here and now, and I seldom live in the past or in whatever has happened. And I have a really hard time with dates and times. So now I have somebody else who is good at those things. So
Exactly.
we complement each other. And it was actually quite difficult to get that book from my mother where she wrote everything, to look through and see all the things that had happened to me as a child. And I don't even know where that book is anymore. It's in a box somewhere.
Exactly.
But I already had a medical journal that was too thick for doctors to read when I was 18.
18. I thought it began early for me. I started having issues when I was 23, but for you, it started even earlier. If you had deficiencies from birth, you grew up and probably had still a lot of deficiencies, and then you had me. And so I have probably had deficiencies also.
Which child? So 3 children before you emptied whatever
nutrient supply.
whatever supply I had. But what is better for all of you, all of the children, is that you grew up in a place where the cows ate good food and nutrients, and the milk was good. So you all got nutrients from that.
Yeah, that's true. My father is a farmer. Yeah. We had our own milk and meat, and he was also a hunter. So that was at least a little bit better, perhaps.
Started later for you because you got
Mm,
it, got whatever I could give you, then from all the nutrients that were all around and from good sources. And
mm.
then you became older and you didn't live on the farm anymore and you started buying the regular things in the stores.
Exactly. And started eating healthy, starting to eat salads. So stupid. But you live and you learn. But
That's
then,
not stupid, actually. You can't judge yourself for the past with the information
mm,
you have today because you didn't
no,
have
that's
this
true.
information today. So you
Yeah.
did the best you could.
Mhm.
And you've always done the best you could.
Yeah. Also, just had seen your journey growing up. I knew you were suffering, all the struggles you had. I didn't realize to what extent until I got the issues myself, but I saw your suffering. You were fighting every single day. And just knowing that I really wanted to not go down the same path. And
Right.
then I unfortunately listened to the so called experts who talk about what you should eat, but they don't take into account how our bodies work, which is
No.
so stupid. And a lot of the big food industry has funded studies that we have today,
Yeah.
which makes the studies very, very biased.
Yes.
And some might say, no, this is not true. This is just conspiracy. If you go and you look at these studies,
Yeah.
you will
Everything is
see
Yeah,
it's not
everything is
the
driven by
case.
money.
Yeah.
Everything is driven by money. And for them to sell, they need studies that tell you that this is good for you. So they choose that information. With every statistic, you can
Mm,
choose whatever suits you. So
yeah.
there are things that are going to say, no, this is bad, but they choose the parts that are good and then they blow it up out of proportion. But actually, I think you are very much like me in that you will not accept that this is a doom forever.
No.
I've heard the doctor say that you have to live with that forever. We
Yeah.
can manage the symptoms. There's no cure for this. And I don't accept
Yeah.
that there can be no cure.
I refuse.
I refuse. I have a body that wants to heal.
Yeah.
If I give it the right things, it wants to
Hmm.
heal. Then
And it does. And
now
it does.
it does. It actually does.
It worked for
Right.
you. It worked for me.
Yeah. And so just cutting out the grains made a huge difference for me. It made a
Hmm.
huge difference. I had problems with my stomach my
Mm,
entire life. I get bloated, pains and gases and all these problems. And when I
mm.
quit grains, no more.
Yeah.
I don't get this pregnancy stomach after eating food. So it's actually cool how much your stomach can grow just from eating healthy food.
Help me.
Yeah.
Food that's sprayed with chemicals.
Yeah, it's not only that, it's so much more. It's gene manipulated these days. They put some fish into it so that it will keep growing even if it gets a cold spell. It's just horrible. Let's not even go there. But it has been a lot of trial and error. If I eat this, I get sick. Okay, so I won't eat that anymore. Another time I can eat that, but I can't eat it in combination with this. Okay, so I can eat that, but not the other thing with it.
Mm.
This was 56 years of study or something like that. Every year I've learned something new, and every year it's been a bit better. But before it got better, it got so much worse than I thought I was going to die. It's really scary also being on your own and knowing that you can faint and knowing that you might not even be able to get up out of bed or that the medicine has got you so sick that you can't do anything. It has been a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And then it was
Yeah.
a lot of downs and downs and then
Mm.
downs. Then it turned around.
Yeah. That's an important aspect that not many people know, but a lot of medicines are actually toxic. They can be
I
very
was on,
harmful.
I had a medicine for 23 years. And then a doctor said, "Are you on this medication?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have been for 23 years." And then he said, "Okay, well, this medicine is going to give you more pain than you had from the beginning. So if we remove this medicine, it's going to be really difficult to remove it after 23 years. But if we remove it, you will first have excruciating pain because it masks and it wants you to keep eating it. But we wean you off this medication because it's giving you pain. And it was a pain medication. And I had eaten it for 23 years. And these days, they say that if you eat it for more than a month, it is going to screw up your nervous system.
Oh my God.
Go figure.
Yeah. You know how they talk about different business ideas? And some entrepreneurs try to find problems in society and then solve those problems with that new method. Other people create a problem to sell the solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think pain medication that gives you pain and gives you even more pain.
Yeah.
If you stop taking it, that's something fishy going on. That's something very wicked. How is that even something they can prescribe you?
I felt very betrayed when I found out that because I had so much pain. I have chronic fatigue and chronic pain and chronic fibromyalgia. These days, I have osteoarthritis that is progressing at huge rates. The doctors say I'm like an 80-year-old woman, which is something that I will not accept either. I will do everything I can to not have all the surgeries that they had predicted for me. And so I'm going to do my utmost not to cut into my body if I don't truly, truly have to.
I love to hear that because I can speak from my own experience with you as a mother. I remember a lot of my younger years, you couldn't get out of bed barely. You were sleeping or needed to rest all the time. All the time. You could barely move. You were so heavy. At your heaviest, how much did you weigh?
158 kilos.
And you're like 163 tall?
163 and a half. I tell everyone I'm 164. My circumference, it was bigger than my length.
How many surgeries have you had? You cannot even count, or can you?
No, ish 20. Ish 20 surgeries.
Yeah. And how many pills did you take in one day when you took the most?
50, maybe.
It's madness.
And at that time, when I was taking all this medication, I was in an ambulance at least twice every week, maybe even 4 times a week. And this is when I wasn't heavy anymore. I had lost a lot of weight, some pain medicines and some sleeping medicines, but mostly vitamins and minerals. And I was in an ambulance so often that the medical facility didn't know what to do with me. They had no idea why this was happening all the time. And so they told me that if you regulate diabetes with food, you should also take sugar to regulate a low blood sugar. So they told me to eat grapes, where I felt like I was crashing in sugar. And then I ended up in an ambulance.
So that worked out well.
No, it didn't. Finally, they sent out a distress call. And this professor in Sweden, actually, he said, they're killing you. They're killing you. These medicines don't work together. You shouldn't have this regime. Don't listen to the diabetes nurses and doctors. Don't listen to them at all. So he said, you need to eat a lot of meat, essentially a keto diet. So it was a lot of meat, a lot of fat, and very, very few carbohydrates. And nothing below ground, like no carrots, nothing that grows below the earth, but fruits should be fine and fruits from vegetables. Okay, so I started this and wow, it was so great. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And every time I came to him, he saw me as a person, an actual whole entire person with everything. And he listened to me and he heard what I said. Okay. So what happened then was that I couldn't even tolerate tomatoes because they were too sweet. And so he told me that your body's very picky. And so I actually got 1 injection every week for diabetes that I need to take. And I came back to him and I was like, I'm feeling really sick. I don't even understand. I don't have energy. I am tired all the time. Okay. So you have stopped eating all that fat, he said. You need to up your fat again. Really? Yeah, that's your only energy. That's the only energy you have in this diet. You don't eat carbohydrates, so you need to eat fat. Yeah, but it becomes all fatty in my top of my mouth. Yeah, but you need to find fats that you like because you need fats the rest of your life. And you need to eat a lot of fats and you need to eat a lot of meat. But they say you're not supposed to eat a lot of meat. Well, you can't listen to them, he said. You can't listen to them.
Everyone should go to.
And then I came back for a checkup, 1 year checkup, and they had taken blood and they were red in the results. And I'm like, why is it so red? Because these values of your cholesterol, the good cholesterol, is so high that it's red. It's higher than they have ever seen. And your bad cholesterol is so low that it turns red. And he's like, but that's only good. All of these red things are good things, you know?
Yeah, they take these measurements for measuring cholesterol and triglycerides and everything, but they base it on the average of the general population.
Yeah, which is
And
sick.
the average population is sick. And so why are we looking at those markers? It's madness. Okay, so we took a quick break, but during this break, my mother mentioned that the doctor we talked about previously is actually an everyday hero because I asked her about the advice he gave her. And I was curious because it's not the normal, conventional advice you usually get. So, but could he give that to you? It feels weird that the doctor would give that to you because it's against the doctor code.
He believed that it is scientifically proven since every person that he had helped was enough for him to see that it was a proven way of doing things. I was part of a study as I went to him because he only accepted 5 cases a year. And when I had been on this diet for 1 year, I came back to him and he checked my status, my blood, and everything else. My nutrition were so high that they flagged that it was red because it was a top end. And what had I done? I had eaten and I had eaten up. For cold things, I chose olive oil. And for warm things, I chose real butter.
Yeah.
But since I am lactose intolerant, I had lactose free butter and a lot of cream and mayonnaises and everything with a lot of fat in it. And actually, it's good. So that's what all the other people told me all the time. Cut down the fat, eat more of sugary stuff, like the naturally sugary stuff. But when I did, I just went from bad to worse.
You ended up in the ambulance.
Yes. So
Almost died.
like every other day or every day.
Crazy. But you told me that he told you you could not tell anyone.
Actually, he was like a rebel in the medical society, and he was doing this under the radar.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he was educating the dietitians that were to give this kind of advice to people that he would send to them. But a lot of the dietitians wouldn't because it's against the praxis that they have been taught when going to dietary school and everything.
Of course.
And it's also against society's rules. Just cutting down meats and cutting down the amount of fat that you eat and eat more greens. And they wouldn't be his dietitians. I'm so glad that he's doing this. I'm so glad that he is teaching some people at least what works. Yes, he saved my life.
And he probably saved so many other people's lives. Well,
at least 5 a year.
That's a hero. That's a hero.
Yeah.
He doesn't just follow blindly what he has been told. He does what actually works.
Yes.
And he saves lives
Yes.
as a doctor should.
And actually, I had like 20 medications when I came to him. And he cut them down to 7. And the rest of the medication, he said, you will probably need to take these for a while longer, then you can wean off most of them. But keep the vitamins, the minerals, the other things that I needed because I had a lot of surgeries.
Yeah. But I love what you said about for the first time, you were being heard.
Yes.
You were being taken seriously and you were given advice that actually works.
Yes.
For the first time in your whole life by a doctor.
And I was like 48 years old or something. I've been trying to find ways that worked. I had found some things that I knew worked that I didn't get sick of, but I had no idea I should eat LCHF,
Yeah.
high fats and low sugar. It was revolutionary. It would change my whole life. It saved my life.
It saved your life.
Yeah, it did.
And it only saved your life because he was going against everything that he had been taught when it came to nutrition.
Yeah. And he told me not to listen to those who had been indoctrinated in this wrong way. He said that if everybody would eat this way, we would all be healthier. So it's not only for diabetics, it's if everyone would eat that way, it would be better for everyone.
Yeah, I'm not diabetic. I eat this way and I feel freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's human biology. If you look at our intestines, they are not meant to break down large amounts of fiber, not a lot of grains, processed shit, Coca-Cola, everything like this. It's meant to eat meat and fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And occasionally fruit in small amounts for some people. For you, it didn't work out, but only seasonally also.
Yeah.
We should not eat a bunch of sugar all year around.
No, no, no. If you look at the original societies, the Sami in Sweden or the Inuits in Alaska, they would only get whatever was there at any given point. They could not go to a store and buy a bunch of fruit if it wasn't in season. And up there, it was seldom in season. So you could pick some berries, maybe, and then it would be something really super good. Our brains are wired to like sugar. But once you stop eating sugar, water tastes sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's called sweet water, because it tastes sweet. And I never knew that until I stopped eating sugar and every carbohydrate. I don't eat carbohydrates as a rule. Sometimes I will have some really super thin bread out of oat. Yeah. And some bread that's called cloud bread that I can make myself these days are actually really good bread. It works. It works like bread, but it has no grains in it. So I recommend cloud bread.
It's actually, it's tastier and it's much juicier also.
Oh, it's really good. It's really good. I can eat like really big sandwiches of it.
Yeah. So when you grew up, were you ever affected in school? Did you experience a lot of symptoms from these things?
Yeah. Well, like the first 3 years of school, I learned nothing at all. Partly because it was noisy, a lot of confusion everywhere, and I wasn't feeling well. By the end of elementary school, I was in a wheelchair. And I had a special taxi take me to school. And at the end of the day, I was so tired that I couldn't even socialize or anything. I just lay down at the end of the day. And it was so boring that I had to change into a more difficult line of studies. Then it was more interesting, but I was also more tired. So I've had the chronic tiredness. But we moved to the United States for 5 years when I was growing up, between 10 and 15 years old. And they knew how to help me in the US. So they put me in a reading lab because they realized that I read quickly. So I learned how to look at the page at 3 different points in the center of the page and read everything on it. And so I could read very, very quickly. So actually, it took me 3 months, and then I was in the top of the class because they understood me. And after that, I knew how to study. And
how was it being so young, not being able to play with other kids, not having the energy? Did you feel alone?
Well, yeah, there is an element of being alone because when you are so sick that you cannot take part of things, it's lonely just knowing that other people are doing this now and I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy to do it, the muscular strength to do it, and I didn't have the energy to even think about doing it. That's the way it is. But also, we've moved so many times that there is a point when you choose not to get any more friends because you're not going to keep them anyway. So I stopped trying to get friends. The few friends that I have are really good friends and I keep them forever. But the other friends, they come and go, and it's no use even trying to waste energy on something that is not going to be there in a year.
Yeah.
And even if I don't talk to them for 2 years, we can pick up where we were and we can keep going. And none of us have a problem with that. We just connect and we go on. So I have good friends, but I don't have these shallow friendships.
Relationships. But moving into your teenage years,
Yeah.
a lot happens when you become a teenager. Did you feel like your symptoms developed more?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia as a teen.
Explain fibromyalgia.
Fibromyalgia is probably fascia that is too tight, which causes pain in every part of your body. And it's a wandering pain. So one day I can have a pain in my shoulders and I can hardly hold my head up. Another time I have so much pain in my arm that I can't use my arm. Another day I have so much pain in my legs. And I've learned that when I do something, say I am putting furniture together one day, I use this arm and I screw in a million screws. The next day I can't use my arm because I used it and the fascia is too tight. Okay, so I can't use my arms, so I take a walk and I squat down and I run around and I have fun. Okay, so the next day I can't use my legs. So now I have an arm that won't work and I have legs that won't work. And this is how fibromyalgia works. And they press down on 12 points of your body and you need to have 7. Well, I had 12. Every place they pressed, it was so painful. It sounds like they were sticking a knife into my body. So they said, yeah, you have fibromyalgia. Yeah. Okay, so what can I do about it? They said, there's nothing to do about it. You can get pain medicine. And I'm like, I refuse. There has to be something that you can do for fibromyalgia. These days, I have learned what to do to get rid of fibromyalgia. It's to stretch my fascia.
Yeah.
So when I stretch it, I don't get this debilitating pain in my arm or in my legs or whatever. And it's not like stretching your muscles after you have been exercising. You have to stretch it in different ways. But if anybody has this problem, it's online. Search for fibromyalgia, fascia, and you'll get all the information there. So today, it's awesome that you can just search the internet at a push of a button.
Yeah.
But don't buy everything it says. Keep researching it afterwards because it will pick what most commonly is asked for and it will give you the most common answers. And that's not what I want.
And like with everything, the proof is in the pudding. If you try it up and it works, then it works.
Yeah.
It freaking works. And if it doesn't, keep searching.
Yeah.
If functional medicine doesn't even have it for you, then it could be in something else. But if you don't feel good, never stop searching.
Right.
But that's a very good way for people to try to navigate. Just try it out for themselves and never give up.
Yeah.
You can get the whole world's information.
Yeah.
So there is answers out there. And don't believe any expert saying any bullshit that's really not true. Because otherwise you wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be here today.
No. And don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking that you are just oversensitive or you are just overthinking this or you are overfeeling this or you are just anything. Because when you feel there's something wrong, then find what will help you instead. Go to someone else, find something else, do something else. Take yourself seriously and seriously enough to look at the difficult things because it's not easy. It's never easy to change your entire life or your habits. Anyone who says it's easy is also gaslighting you because it's the struggle. And so now it's only at most seldom that I choose to go to the hospital. And sometimes maybe it's a bit late, but at least I do it when I absolutely need it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know your body better than anyone. And you have also shown that you can be your own doctor. And when it has worked the best is when you have stopped listening to the conventional advice and trusting your body, listening to what it needs and what it wants.
Yeah.
And I think there is so much strength in that. We have so much power and our body can heal itself. And I just want anyone listening to really take that to heart because a lot of the times we hear things like, there's nothing you can do. There's so much things you can do when you take back the power to yourself and say to yourself, I'm the expert. I know my body. I know when I'm in pain.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out what's wrong. And I will not give up until I do that.
Right. Something that I want to send to anyone who has fibromyalgia right now is that it's not an easy fix. It takes time and you can't stop stretching it because it wants to be tight. So you need to keep stretching it. So when I slack off and I don't stretch it, I get pains again. And it reminds me, okay, I need to start stretching again. And so I follow the regime and I stretch it the way I'm supposed to. Then it works.
Yeah. And that's
It takes a lot of twisting your body and a lot of pulling at different places, but it actually works because you don't have to take all the pain medicine if you do that.
yeah. And that's also another great point. If you want something to change in your life, you have to make change.
Yes.
You cannot expect change or a different result from doing the same thing over and over again. You have to try.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Yeah. And I have full respect for people who try and fail because you have to keep up doing it and doing it and doing it until it works.
Yeah. Okay, that didn't work. Next thing.
But the problem is actually that sometimes things will work, but except when it's paired with something else. So if you hear that it will work again, then try it in some other way. But I trust that your own body will teach you what it needs. It will give you cravings for what you need if it's not sugar or anything else like that. I have a crab craving every now and then. And when I eat the crab, I'm fine. I can eat half a crab and be fine. But then I have a new crab craving. And just a short while ago, a month?
Yeah.
We've been talking about iodine. And so I believe it's the iodine in the crab that I need because I don't eat the normal salt that everybody eats. I need the sea salt because my blood pressure is so low that I need salt to bring it up. But if I use regular salt, it's only the natrium and I need the potassium. I need potassium. And I can find that in Himalaya salt and in sea salt. And the added benefit of sea salt is that you also get iodine from the sea salt. And so I have been using the Himalayan salt because my body tolerates it the best and it keeps my blood pressure up enough so that I don't faint like I did before. But I actually need the iodine too. So I'm going to keep using the Himalayan salt and I'm going to add iodine because it has a lot to do with your nervous system. It has to do with removing brain fog, energize. Yeah, energize. So I believe my next tweak is iodine. So this is a learning process. I don't think we ever get done learning. We're going to keep learning our entire lives.
Yeah. Because I have done a deep dive in iodine, I can say.
Yeah.
And from what I've gathered, iodine can be so beneficial for most of the population because the earth is very depleted in iodine, which means the animals doesn't get it, the plants doesn't get it. So when we eat the plants and the animals, we don't get the adequate amount of iodine that we need for the thyroid to function especially, but also other functions in the body like the brain. For me, my brain like this, and my energy went up, and it was like I was walking in a dream, like a foggy scenery to see in movies. And then when I took iodine in a little bit higher amount than recommended, boom, everything turned on. I could feel it within an hour. And they say usually it takes longer than that. It can take even days before you notice. But I was so deficient. It just turned everything on. But from what I've gathered, if you have antibodies, there have been some links between high antibodies and iodine, because what iodine really does is it boosts your thyroid. But if you have a lot of thyroid antibodies and you turn on the thyroid, making it work more efficiently, it can actually increase the antibodies attacking the thyroid. So if you are going to supplement with iodine, try to reduce your antibodies. And that you can only do through lifestyle. And I have a community about this, and I can link it down below. And so you will have to make lifestyle changes before you do this. That I'm telling you, when you have done that and you take the iodine, your world will shift. It did for me. It's like I came alive now. It's like all my life I've been walking in a dream, and now I can see everything so clear. I'm so sharp. Like nothing goes under my radar anymore. Now I'm like a hunter. I know everything that's going on. And I've never felt like this before. And so it's just so amazing. Yeah, so I really recommend that. Click the link because it's so much worth it. You know, living a life like this, being sick all the time, it ruins the quality of life.
Yeah. And once you start getting autoimmune diseases, it will just keep adding more and more and more of it because your body doesn't get what it needs. And so it keeps getting more depleted. And finally, you just shut down a lot of different systems in your body.
Yeah.
Some organs even shut down because of autoimmune problems.
Yeah, and many people nowadays have problems getting kids. They can't get pregnant. They're infertile. They have to remove their thyroids. It's so much weird things. We were never meant to be sick. The normal state of a human being is being healthy.
We have a code in our genes to repair our bodies. So our bodies want to heal. Our bodies are there to be your biggest fan if you just do what it needs. And it won't be an overnight quick fix. It's a lifestyle fix. So when you start doing something and keep doing it for 21 days, you will change a habit. And it takes 3 weeks. It takes 3 or 4 weeks to change a habit. But once you've changed it, your body will thank you a little bit for that. And then you change something else and it will thank you a little bit for that. So listen to your bodies and do the things that feel good to you. In positive changes, not in alcohol, not in drugs or gambling, not addictions. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about lifestyle changes that are positive for your body so your body can start to heal. Everything else is just a substitute for the real thing.
Exactly. And as you say, like sometimes we can get like urges.
Yeah.
I really want this. But just because you want something doesn't mean your body needs it. A need is more calm. It will tell you like, oh, I really feel like this. While an urge is more spontaneous and it will be more, oh, I want this now. And then it's usually because you want to cope with something. Maybe you drink alcohol because it makes you feel good, but you know, it's not bringing you to a more healthy state.
No.
And so whenever you feel, oh, I want this or I need this, because it can be confusing, but then try to feel, is this what I'm wanting, making me more healthy or making me more sick?
Right.
That's a good like mindset to have.
Anything that makes your life worse in the long run will never help your body. So if you drink alcohol, you might feel good right now, but when you wake up the next morning, you will have a headache and your body will tell you, I didn't want that. It was a poison that you put into my body. And now I have to deal with the poison and your diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can't even heal you during your restorative rest because it has to take care of poisons, which is the most important thing it has to do right then.
Yeah.
If you drink alcohol or you take drugs every day, every weekend, then you are going to hinder your body from being healed. So, and it can turn into an addiction so that you need it more and more and more and more. And it will keep you effectively from being healthy.
Yeah. And especially when it comes to the thyroid, drinking is very toxic to the liver because that's the organ who's supposed to cleanse out the toxins from your body.
Yeah.
If the liver is congested with a lot of toxins, the body cannot, or the conversion of T3 will be inhibited.
Yeah.
So it will be much harder for your thyroid as well. So everything in the body is an ecosystem. Everything goes together. So when you mess with one thing, and especially when it comes to toxins, because that affects the whole body.
Yeah. In my family, my grandmother and my mother and my aunt and everybody and my cousin and everyone, they have thyroids that have been eaten up by their own bodies. So we don't have a thyroid anymore. It's not there. So I am so happy that you are taking care of this before this happens in your life, because it's very difficult when it shuts down completely.
So take me back to that. When did your thyroid shut down and what was going on in your life during that time period? Obviously, it's a long process. It probably started out long before, but
Yeah.
what do you think was the like breaking point where it just gave up?
Yeah. It was an acute crisis that I was pregnant with my second child, and it was a difficult pregnancy in different ways. I also had back problems caused by the pregnancy. I had to wear a belt around the hips underneath the big stomach. And then I was collecting so much water in my legs that they were tree trunks all the way down. My toes were so full of water that I could hardly walk on my feet, and my thyroid shut down. And this was right at the end of the pregnancy. I gave birth. I didn't get my energy back up. When you give birth, the first 2 minutes, you're like, I'm so tired. I need to go to sleep. Then your body says, ding, you can't sleep all night, because if you had given birth in nature, you would have to pick up the baby and run away from there where all the blood and goo is. And so your body is wired to get energy.
Energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So even if the birth took 24 hours or 36 hours or whatever, you will not feel like you haven't slept or had run a marathon, but you will pick that child up and you will never sleep during that night. You might sleep a lot later because you got all this adrenaline and all this oxytocin. It just floods your system and you can't sleep. So you were talking about the liver here, and I have a damaged liver because of all of the medications that I have eaten over my lifespan, which also causes me to have problems with anything that the liver needs to clear out of my system. So I need to be careful with what I eat, because my liver can't handle too much of any toxins or any extra medications, except in rare occasions I will take some pain medication. But the pain medication is probably the worst to eat for your liver. And now I won't say it's the worst, because there are a lot of different drugs that will cause problems with your liver. But if you already have a damaged liver, even licorice, I've eaten the pure licorice, not the sugary kind, because I couldn't. But every time I take one of these tiny bits, and this is the size of the licorice that I would eat, it just causes my entire skin to turn yellow because my liver can't handle it. So I don't eat that anymore. Also, I've learned lately that if I overreact to sugar, which caused me to go in the ambulance 2 to 4 times a week, maybe more, when you come in the third time, they will put you up in the hospital and they will keep you there for observation. When you come in the fourth time, they will keep you a couple of days too. So it will be only like 4 to 5 times you go in with an ambulance during a week. More than that, it will never be. But every time they would say that, yeah, your liver values are kind of bad, but it's still within the perimeters. It will still work for you. And we find nothing wrong with you. But when you become too much of a burden economically for the healthcare system, it's going to do something else. And in my case, it was to find this professor that would help me and would save my life in some
But
way.
they only sent you to him because at that point, going with the ambulance,
Going with the ambulance, staying in the hospital, it cost
you
them
were
too much.
you were much more profitable when you were just purchasing the pills.
Yeah, well, that's how the system works. If it gives you pills and it keeps you away from the healthcare system, they say, fine, now we fix the problem. You're out of the picture now. But if you keep coming back all the time, then you are a problem that needs to be because you cost too much.
Wow. Follow the money, they say.
Yeah, follow the money. Yeah. So I'm super glad I met this professor and he saved my life. And I am to this day eating the way he told me to eat. And when I feel fatigued, I up my fat intake because that is mostly, or 99.9% of the time, it's because I've cut down on some fat or haven't realized that I've cut down some fat, but I've stopped with something that has a lot of fat.
Yeah. And when it comes to women's hormones and our health, it's so important that we get adequate amounts of fat to balance those hormones. Otherwise, it gets real imbalances that also cause a lot of symptoms and issues within the body. So, I mean, there are two sources of energy that you can have, and one is from fat and one is from sugar.
You need the proteins for your brain because your brain is protein. And you need a lot of water because your brain needs to be wet because that's what causes electrical impulses to work in your body, in your nervous system. So the most important things is water, fat, and protein. That's
Yeah.
what you need.
Yeah, everyone is different, obviously. But the foundational things that applies to all humans. Go out in nature, have good relationships around you, eat the right types of foods. Do not go and eat ultra processed foods. Get in your proteins, get in your fats. And then that's the foundation.
Yes. There's another thing that is super, super important, and that is supportive people all around you. Because if you have negative people with negative influences that tell you that you're too much or too little, you are never going to be in your prime. You are always going to be less than. And that keeps you from being the best you can be.
Yeah.
So once you are picky enough not to allow people to put you down, to hurt you in different ways, tell you have to do this, or as long as you have people that are kind, supportive, that pulls in the same direction that you do, that's when you start healing mentally and physically.
Yeah.
So when I tried to do it myself in destructive relationships, I would get nowhere. When I tried to do it myself with no relationship, I would go slowly forward. When I do it in super supportive, positive, affirming relationship, then it's like rocket speed healing. There is hands down nothing better than to have supportive people all around you.
Yeah. Because it all stems from love.
Yes.
Love for yourself.
And you need to love and be loved. And that brings your body into a calm state that gives it all the best prerequisite for it to work. So then you can start finding the fine print. You know that if I eat sugary stuff, say a pepper, which has carbohydrates in it, but not in very high levels, all I have to do is put ice on my body. Because what happens when I get too hot is that my liver stops working. And that's why I faint. But when you cool me down, like put ice on my body, or I stand with my feet right in the snow or whatever, I cool myself down, my liver starts working and it gives me enough sugar to keep my system going.
Yeah.
And I won't faint.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that you're bringing that up because it's the thyroid's job to regulate the temperature in the body. But in your case, your thyroid was so attacked that it no longer exists. But so your thyroid was breaking down during your second pregnancy. But what happened after that?
I got worse and worse and worse and worse. Finally, I couldn't even get out of bed. I slept 22 hours of 24. And the people around me were saying that you have to stop being so lazy.
Yeah.
I'm not lazy. I just can't do it. I was freezing. I had 4 layers of clothes on me. In Sweden, you have these different layers when you go out skiing. I had all the layers on me inside the house and I was still freezing. Like I had an ice core inside of my body that I couldn't heat up. And I was tired, so tired that I couldn't focus. And if I tried, I just fell asleep wherever I was. I was sitting in a sofa sleeping, or I was sitting on a chair sleeping, or I was lying in a bed sleeping. And I just couldn't wake up. So then when I went to the doctor, they said, oh, but you have really bad. I've tried to get medications earlier because my mother saw the symptoms in me a lot earlier.
Yeah.
So she said, you need to go to a doctor and get medicine. And I told her, they told me I was too young to have this problem. They won't even take the tests. Okay. So a year later, I went again and I said, now I'm worse. Can you take this test again? And they said, no, but you're within the limits.
Where were you at then in TSA?
I don't really know. I don't know. But I was at the bottom part, the limit for what it can be. And it's changed over the years. And this was way back. This is like in the 90s. And then the journals that they have at the hospital were in paper back then. It's not even in my journals.
Oh, I would want to see that. What your levels were then, because the levels are, as you know, out of whack.
No, but they're changing the levels to fit the sick population. Well, anyways, then I came to them and now I was well below what I was supposed to have. And I got the medication and I woke up again. So it worked. I got energy back. I didn't freeze as much. And once we got to a certain level, I was perfectly working again.
So what meds did you get at this time?
I got 2.25, which I don't know what it is today. But
What was the medication called?
Levaxin.
Levaxin.
And then it changed to, so equivalent in what is now, it would be 225. But then later they brought me down to 125. And now I 125 during winter, and then I skip the 25 during summer. So I don't overheat. Because if I have the extra 25, I will overheat during summer. But if I don't, I can tolerate summer as well. And since it doesn't regulate itself, I need to regulate it. And the doctors don't really see that. So I do that on my own. But I can't stress this enough. Don't get gaslit by the medical societies. Don't do it. You know your body better than anybody else. If you feel bad, it is bad. Even if people say that, come on, it can't be all that bad. But if it is that bad, it is that bad. You don't have to explain yourself to anybody. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to listen to that crap. So instead, find out. These days you can find out a lot on the internet. But you can find out good stuff and bad stuff. So use functional medicine and you will get some good results.
Yeah. But you mentioned that your mother saw the signs in you early.
Yeah.
Did you see signs in her when you were growing up? Did you see any symptoms in her behavior, in her everyday life?
Very difficult to answer because we didn't have the same kind of life that you had. We didn't have internet. I could see my mother struggling and I could see my grandmother struggling. But it was kind of normal.
In what ways did you see their struggles?
Well, they all have pains and bloating and weight gain, osteoarthritis, illness, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. I know my grandmother had fibromyalgia. A lot of surgeries. It was normal for me, and it was normal for a lot of kids in that generation. Because nobody had information. Everybody turned to the medical to get information, and everybody got the same information, and it was nothing strange about it. Problems with the moods and stuff.
Yeah.
But everything that has been researched on men.
Yeah.
And then they give women the same medicine. When really men have a stable hormone system and women have one that goes up and down because it's supposed to be like that because we are to bear children. But they don't take that into account when they treat us. They have done their research on men and we get the same stuff.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's only in the latest years that they have started studies on women specifically. And oddly enough, it's not about the women issues. It's about other things like heart attacks and things like that. I would like to see more research on the women hormone cycle and how that affects. Because you have actually like 3 stages of this. You have the first stage when you are pretty much like young boys. We are pretty much the same before puberty. Then
Yep.
comes puberty, and everything changes because the girl goes like this and the guy goes like that. So there's a lot of differences and a lot of pains and aches worsen when hormones are put in place. That's when I got to sit in a wheelchair. Then you have the third part is when you hit premenopause and menopause. And that's when it's supposed to reset again in some odd kind of way, so that the estrogen gets lower, which causes the balance to be more the male hormone, testosterone, and the progesterone, it just goes away.
Yeah.
And that causes new kinds of problems and more severe symptoms than earlier in all of these cases, which actually tells me that if I had been a man from the beginning, they would have taken this more seriously. Well, so now I'm more like a man than I am a woman because I have a high testosterone level and a low estrogen level and no progesterone because I'm old now. Anyways, now there are a lot of different things I need to tweak again because my hormones are off whack. So I need to do some more tweaks, but that's okay.
So how was it going through menopause with all of these issues?
It's like everything works until you hit premenopause, and then nothing works. And then you get like 100 times more of everything that was a problem. And then you think that I'm not going to survive this. And then you try to find new solutions. It's like starting over from scratch again. It got me depressed. I got really depressed during last pause because partly you have this shift in hormones and you get overheated, you get freezing, sweating for the first time in my whole life. I've never sweat as growing up, and I've never sweat in my adult life until I hit menopause. And I would get these waves of heat and it would start running sweat all over my body, not because I was hot, but because it was a change in my body that caused me to cold sweat. It's so strange, so strange. When other people were freezing, I was hot, and then I was cold, and then I was hot, and then I was cold, and I threw my sheets off and on, and all of these things makes your sleep cycle bad. And sleep is essential if you are to be able to do the things you need to do. So you get some sleeping meds. Then you have problems with night sweats, which soaks through your entire bed. So I needed to put some protection on my bed, the same that I used when children wet the bed at night so that it doesn't go through the entire mattress. It causes bad sleep. And all of the problems with the thinking and the executive functions and everything just decreases because your sleep is so bad. And then I think the shift in hormones also create this havoc in your system. But for anybody going through menopause, I can tell you when it settles, it will become better again.
Yeah. Did you find anything that helped with this process of going through menopause?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I kept searching and I just had layers of clothes and I took them off and I put them on again. I don't have the thyroid to regulate it for me, so I need to regulate the clothes. And so I would take it off. I would have a fan that I would fan myself with. I have a fan with water, so I can spray water on me and fan myself with before my body screams that this is awful. For dryness, it became very, my skin was dry, my hair was dry, the lining of your mouth, the lining of your nose, the private parts, everything became really dry. They said, well, use estrogen again. You can have some estrogen patches to put on, or you can take
Yeah, I've heard about that hormone replacements.
Yes.
And replace the estrogen that the body really lowers when you go through menopause.
Yeah.
How did it work?
I have never felt worse in my life because it worked against the natural order of things. My body didn't know what it was supposed to do with it. So, yeah, it eased the dryness, but it didn't help me. So I stopped.
Mhm.
recently I had to do a medical thing that I needed to take some estrogen, and it has been awful getting off it again. So just staying off it is the best. Just letting life has its natural order is the best, I think. There is a reason why it ends, and it's a reason not to mess with it. But for anybody who needs things, I just didn't. But if somebody else thinks that it's the best that has happened to them, keep going. It's not my business. I have my own body to listen to. So everybody should do what they feel is the right thing for them. So I'm not preaching that everybody should do something. I'm just telling you about my journey. That's it.
And I think when it comes to lifestyle changes, sometimes it takes just a little bit time for the body to adapt.
Yes.
Like when it comes to diet, sometimes going into something like a keto diet can in the beginning cause a lot of symptoms. You can get loose stools, but once the body goes into balance, then you can see the results, but it can take a while.
Yeah.
And I think menopause is a little bit the same thing, that the body has to adapt.
It has to regulate, and it takes time for it to regulate. So for some people, it takes years. And for me, it was better not to take estrogen and to allow it to have its course. And then I eased my symptoms in other ways than taking medication. And especially since this lifesaver of mine helped get rid of a lot of medication, I try to stay off as much medication as I can.
I think there is so much wisdom in looking at our ancestry,
Yeah.
how we used to live close to nature, in the sun, with natural foods, and in a natural environment that was not filled with toxins.
Yeah.
And also, the body has its different stages and its natural rhythms. And there was not the same kind of stress that we have today.
No, right.
And it's biology. The body knows natural biology. So it knows what meat is when you eat it. It knows how to process it. It knows how to handle it, how to break it down, and how to use it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to all our new man-made inventions that we put,
Oh, have you heard about the 3D printed meat?
yeah, talking about
Yeah. No, the body doesn't know what to do with it. We need as natural as possible. I need as natural as possible. Being cooked from raw material, I will not eat processed foods. If I can, I will not eat anything that has been had toxins on it. Because even if it's not been sprayed with it, it's been sucked into it. And so I try to not have that. And since I am mold allergic, I can't eat the 330 series, the E330, 331, 332, 333, 4, and so on, because it's made out of black mold.
is it preservatives or what is it?
Yeah, it's preservatives, antioxidants. It's vitamin C. They say it's perfectly safe vitamin C. And if it was, then I wouldn't be poisoned every time. It feels like I actually eat poison, and I get weaker and weaker and weaker and more pain. Then we have to start searching. Where have they put in the E's now, 330 series? And very often they've added it to meat, or they've added it to something else. They put in lactose into ham, and I got problems with lactose intolerance. So I'm a detective, and my better half is also a detective when something happens, and he's very understanding. So that is awesome.
Yeah, and it's great that you have a companion that supports you on your journey, because a lot of people, maybe when they try to make these changes, they're alone.
Yeah.
Their partner wants to still bring a lot of things into the home, or they're not as supportive.
And that can cause things to get a lot more difficult. It's much easier if you have a supportive person that you can do it together with.
Yeah. But also, one very important point that you brought up was just read ingredients labels.
Yes. I actually started reading it because sugar could not be in the first five ingredients. And I usually never eat anything that has more than five ingredients. So sugar should not be in there at all, or carbohydrates, or syrup, or glucose, or anything that is sugar, but they call it something else.
Yeah. They have like 100 names for sugar, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
So you really have to look into every single ingredient if you're buying something from the store with a long ingredients list. But I would really recommend not buying products, of course, that has an ingredient label at all. It should be as nature made it, one ingredient, and then you can make it at home instead. That would be my recommendation
Yeah.
because we have so many options today, so many different alternatives. I would bet that when you were growing up, you went to the store and you bought a product, but it was like one ingredient mostly. And then you brought it home and then you baked or cooked. But nowadays, everything is prepackaged in plastics and there are
I
preservatives and
recently got
additives.
a question about how I made lemon curd pie.
Mhm.
And I made everything from raw ingredients. And you cannot get the same by buying a pre-made bottom and the lemon in a bottle and anything. So you need to do things from scratch. I even made the butter myself because we had milk to make butter from. So we let the milk stand for a while. The cream came up top. I used the cream and I whipped it for a very long time and it became butter. And so I used everything natural. You can't beat that. The taste of natural is so much better than the taste of preservatives and additives and everything that you need for it to keep in a store.
You can feel that it's artificial, that it's synthetic. You can feel that taste. Sometimes I remember when I was young, I was eating a candy or something and it tastes like lemon or but I could feel this is not the real deal. This is like a synthetic variant of the
Yeah.
real deal. But why we think it's so tasty, it's because the body can sense the nutrients and therefore we like it. I just wonder, is there any message that you would like to give to someone struggling with Hashimoto's? What have you found that really worked very well? And what things did you find that did not work as well for you in your life?
Well, that's a huge question, actually. But I would like for people to understand that they are awesome to keep going. They are heroes in their own right for struggling on. Keep doing it because your body is going to thank you for whatever you try that works for you. What has worked for me is so complex because I had so many autoimmune conditions at the same time that it would not be beneficial for everyone to do that. But we could do another show if you would like to. And we can review the other things. But actually, just listening to your body and not listening as much to the medical profession as you probably have so far, and trusting that your body wants to get well. And when you start doing what your body needs, your body will respond by getting you healthier.
Yeah, good answer. When it comes to workouts, what have you found worked best?
I used to work out a lot and get sick for 2 weeks. And then I started working out again and I got sick for 2 weeks. But now we have at the gym that we have like right across the street, they have started with something called an e-gym. And the e-gym puts boundaries to how far I can push something or how fast I can pull something. And it actually sets the boundaries or the resistance that I need, but not too much. And I've always done too much. So now I don't do too much anymore. I do all of the machines twice and then I'm finished. I don't do anything more. And in the beginning, I thought that was so little. It doesn't probably even work. Why would I only do that? I should actually walk also an hour on the walking thingy. But
Yes.
no, when I just stuck to doing those and nothing else, that's the best for my body. And my knees are much better, and my back is much better, and my shoulders are much better. And it actually has the support in front when I need to pull something, so I don't do things the wrong way, which I
Yeah.
usually do. in other instances. So the e-gem is what helps me.
And when it came to diets, we're absolutely recommending the keto diet, right?
That is the only thing I can eat. And the lifesaver that we talked about earlier said that it would be good for everyone to eat like that, but everyone won't. So it's up to each and everyone how they want to do it. As in everything, I'm just talking about my journey, and that's it.
This is your journey, and this is what has worked. And I've seen it work for me as well. And I can say my life has changed to the better ever since.
And my life has also changed because of you, because you have given me some keys that I need to unlock some of the mysteries in my life. So I think that it's like a give and take in every relationship that you have, that you can get something good and you can give something. And that's important in life.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful. But how do you go about removing toxins in your environment? Opt for natural products and not buy.
Yeah, I can't use products because my skin won't allow me to use products. Because if I put a product on my skin, it will react with fierceness, with different allergic reactions. So I use it very, very, very seldom. So I use natural products like olive oil and coconut oil and things like that. And that's it. I never use anything else.
Yeah, then the body will know what to do with it.
Essential oils that I will put in it for some kind of smell for my as a deodorant or as a skin cream so that I like it when I put it on. And it doesn't only smell like coconut like I've been on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, no, but I'm so happy that you wanted to join this podcast today because I know it's hard to talk about stuff like this, but I think it brings a lot of hope to people. And your journey, your mother's journey, my journey has led to helping a lot of other people. And I can see that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's God, maybe it's the universe, call it what you want, but
Yeah.
thing has led to this point.
Well, there are some universal truths, and that is the same in every religion. And those truths are that every generation learns something new. We learn something growing up, and we learn something new. And this is because the race in itself is to evolve. And so it gets more evolved for every generation. And if we are open to it, my generation can learn from the new generation, and your generation can learn from the new generation, and we can implement it. Whatever we feel is right for us, we can implement it in our lives.
Yeah.
And whatever we don't feel is right, we can just leave it and keep going.
You're so wise. My beautiful mother, thank you so much for joining and spreading your lights in this world and for giving me life.
Yeah, thank you.
But for anyone struggling with Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, I will link to my community down below and also my Instagram. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think we will do more episodes in the future because there's so much to talk about, honestly. But thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank
And
you.
so blessed to have you.